The rain hammered against the windshield as Daniel Reed sped through the empty streets, his hands trembling on the steering wheel. He wasn't running from the storm outside, it was the one raging inside him. His wife, Emma, was in the hospital, and he was supposed to be by her side. But guilt chained him to silence. Hours earlier, a message from an unknown number had shattered his illusion of control. "She deserves to know," it read, followed by a photo, his hand intertwined with another woman's. Panic had swallowed him whole. Now, every raindrop on the glass seemed to whisper his secret louder. When he finally reached the hospital, his reflection in the lobby glass startled him. He looked like a stranger. Emma's name echoed in his mind, mixed with the sound of monitors and hurried footsteps. Nurses rushed past, unaware of the man whose world was about to collapse. As he moved down the corridor, his phone buzzed again. This time it was from the hospital staff. "We need to talk about your wife's test results." His chest tightened. He had no idea that before the night ended, the truth Emma would learn wasn't just about his betrayal. It was about something that would change both their lives forever. Emma lay weakly on the hospital bed, her pale hands resting over her swollen belly, the faint rhythm of her heartbeat mixed with the steady beep of machines beside her. When Daniel entered the room, her eyes fluttered open, not with anger but with confusion and sadness. "You came," she whispered, her voice trembling between hope and exhaustion. He tried to smile, but guilt clouded his face. "Of course I came," he murmured, pulling a chair closer. But she could see it, the distance in his eyes, the storm behind his forced calm. The doctor entered quietly, holding a thin folder. "Mr. Reed, we need to discuss the results from your wife's blood test." Daniel froze, his heart pounding in his chest. Emma looked from the doctor to her husband, her mind racing. "Is something wrong with the baby?" she asked, fear rising. The doctor hesitated. "No, the baby is healthy, but something unexpected appeared in the results." Daniel's breath caught. The doctor continued. "The blood types don't match as expected, Mr. Reed. It's impossible for you to be the biological father." The room fell silent. Emma's lips parted, her eyes searching Daniel's face for denial, for comfort, but all she found was horror. He stood frozen, realizing that the secret he'd been hiding was about to be overshadowed by one he never saw coming. Daniel's knees nearly buckled as the doctor's words echoed in his mind. Not the biological father. The phrase spun around him like a cruel whisper. Emma's hand trembled as she clutched the bedsheet, her heart pounding so loud she thought it would break through her chest. That's not possible," she whispered, her mind flooded with disbelief. She had never been unfaithful, never even imagined betraying the man she loved. "There must be a mistake," she pleaded, her voice cracking. The doctor only sighed, holding the report closer to his chest. "We'll run another test to confirm," he said quietly before leaving them in heavy silence. Daniel couldn't meet her eyes. He stood by the window, staring at the rain-smeared city lights. His guilt twisted into confusion. For weeks he had hidden his own affair, terrified she'd discover it, but now fate had flipped the story. "You don't believe this, do you?" Emma asked, tears blurring her vision. He turned, his jaw tight. I don't know what to believe anymore." The words stabbed her heart deeper than any accusation. She covered her face, sobbing quietly. As thunder rolled outside, Daniel felt the world closing in. The truth was tangled, and for the first time, he feared that whatever the hospital revealed next wouldn't just destroy his marriage. It might expose a secret even darker than his own. The next morning, Daniel sat in the hospital cafeteria, his untouched coffee growing cold. He stared blankly at the table, replaying the doctor's words in his head. Every second stretched like a lifetime. His mind whispered cruel questions. Was this karma for what he'd done? Upstairs, Emma lay awake, her heart heavy with confusion. She couldn't erase the pain in Daniel's eyes when he heard the news. She knew he doubted her, and that thought broke her more than the test itself. A soft knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. It was Dr. Harris holding a new report. "Mrs. Reed," he said gently, "we ran another test. There's something you should see." Emma sat up, her hands trembling as she reached for the paper. Her eyes scanned the results, but it wasn't just a paternity test, it was a full DNA analysis. The doctor hesitated. "It seems there's a medical anomaly. Your baby's DNA shows traces of a rare genetic disorder. But what's more surprising is that the markers match someone already in our records." Emma frowned. "Someone in your records? Who?" The doctor took a deep breath. "A patient treated here 2 years ago, your husband's mother." Emma's breath hitched. She stared at him, her heart pounding. "That's impossible," she whispered. The doctor nodded gravely. "I thought so too. But it means only one thing. Something's been hidden in your husband's past that even he doesn't know." Daniel rushed into the room when he heard Emma crying, his pulse racing. She held the paper in her trembling hands, her face pale as if the world had stopped turning. "What's wrong? What did they say?" he demanded, his voice breaking. She looked up at him, eyes glistening with both fear and pity. "Daniel, the test didn't just question our baby. It questioned you." He froze. "What do you mean?" She handed him the report. As his eyes darted across the lines of medical data, his stomach dropped. His mother's genetic profile, used for an old hospital study, was listed as a match. But there was something even more shocking written at the bottom. Possible identity discrepancy. DNA patterns suggest patient Daniel Reed's records do not match biological lineage. His hands shook. "That can't be right," he muttered. Emma's voice softened. "Daniel, it says you might not be who you think you are." Silence fell. The walls seemed to close in. All those years he thought he knew his story, his family, his roots, his name. Now everything blurred. Memories of his late mother flashed before him. Her quiet sadness, her distance, her fear whenever hospitals were mentioned. For the first time he wondered if she had hidden something more than her pain. The affair he'd tried to conceal suddenly felt meaningless compared to this truth waiting to be uncovered. And deep down Daniel knew. This was only the beginning of what the hospital had truly revealed. That night Daniel sat beside Emma's bed, unable to speak. The storm outside had calmed, but inside him chaos still raged. The doctor's words replayed in his head. "You might not be who you think you are." He stared at the hospital window, seeing not his reflection, but questions he couldn't answer. Emma reached out, gently placing her hand over his. "We'll face this together," she whispered. For the first time in years, Daniel let his guard down. He confessed his affair, his guilt, his fear of losing her. But instead of anger, she offered silence, a silence filled with tears, forgiveness, and exhaustion. The next morning, the hospital arranged a final verification test. The results came in quietly, almost too quietly for the storm they carried. Daniel's DNA didn't match the identity on his birth records. His mother had adopted him secretly after losing her own child during childbirth. The truth had been buried to protect him. The baby Emma carried was his, because his true lineage wasn't what the world believed. Relief and heartbreak collided as he held Emma's hand tighter. The affair that once seemed his greatest mistake now felt like a lesson carved in pain. Life had stripped him bare, revealing that love, honesty, and truth were all that ever mattered. As dawn broke through the hospital window, Daniel whispered, "Maybe we both needed this storm to learn who we really are." Emma smiled faintly, and for the first time in years, they felt whole again.